Imagine a world where electricity is gone forever, no internet, no advanced weapons, no law. 6 years after the sun destroyed human civilization, one legendary object becomes the target of the world's rulers. Not gold, not money, but something capable of ending humanity in a single explosion. And only one man can find it. His name, Jake. Let's dive straight into the story of the movie Afterburn. Jake is the greatest treasure hunter in the world. He's known for finding anything, anywhere. One day, a massive solar flare filled with deadly radiation strikes Earth. The phenomenon cripples all modern technology. Every electronic device shuts down completely. Riots, chaos, and famine spread across the globe. World governments collapse in an instant. In this age of ruin, heavily armed military groups seize control. 6 years after the solar flare, humanity still lives in suffering. Fuel and medicine become extremely scarce. Deadly diseases spread rapidly. Amid the chaos, Jake continues working as a treasure hunter. One day, he infiltrates a luxury apartment tower. The apartment once belonged to a famous musician, but now it lies in complete ruin. Jake notices marks on a movable wardrobe. Sure enough, behind it, he discovers a hidden vault door. He uses explosives to break it open. But once inside, Jake finds nothing. Moments later, he realizes there is another hidden safe in the room. After several attempts, Jake finally cracks it open. Inside, he finds the treasure he's been searching for, an antique Stradivarius violin. Jake grabs the violin and prepares to leave. But suddenly, a group of raiders blocks his path. Without hesitation, Jake fights them all by himself. Despite being outnumbered, he defeats every single one. Afterward, Jake delivers the Stradivarius violin to the London City Palace. Jake hands the violin over to Fuentes, the personal assistant of King Augustus. Fuentes praises Jake's skill, noting that many others had previously failed to retrieve the violin. Fuentes then informs Jake that King Augustus has a new mission for him, to recover a legendary treasure located in France. Hearing the offer, Jake immediately refuses. He says he wants to rest and repair his yacht. Despite Fuentes tempting him with a generous reward, Jake refuses to change his mind. He has no intention of going to France, a region now controlled by dangerous armed fanatics. After Jake leaves, Fuentes reports back to King Augustus. He explains that Jake has rejected the mission in France. In response, King Augustus orders Fuentes to persuade Jake once again. Elsewhere, Jake returns to his ship at the harbor. Once inside, he opens the case containing his payment from the previous job. Instead of money, the case contains dog food, drinks, and vinyl records. In a broken world like this, money has lost all meaning. The next morning, Jack is awakened by noise outside his ship. When he investigates, he finds a royal soldier caught in a trap. The soldier tells him that King Augustus is waiting at the dock. Jack immediately heads there. King Augustus has arrived with his troops. He praises Jack for successfully retrieving the Stradivarius violin. But instead of expressing gratitude, Jack mocks the king for valuing a musical instrument more than addressing the hunger and chaos spreading across London. In response, King Augustus states that all technological infrastructure has been completely destroyed and civilization must be rebuilt from the ground up. He also reveals that he is being opposed by the ruler of France, General Volkov, a ruthless warlord who continues to block his efforts to restore order. Hearing this, Jack says that in his eyes, King Augustus is no different from Volkov. Once again, the king offers Jack the mission in France, but Jack still refuses. That's when King Augustus reveals something unexpected: Jack's ship, fully repaired and ready to sail. He promises that if Jack completes the mission in France, the ship will be returned to him, along with supplies of food and fuel. Tempted by the offer, Jack finally asks what treasure the king is truly after: the Mona Lisa. Jack immediately says it's impossible. Paris was the first city destroyed when the solar flare struck Earth. Addressing Jack's doubts, King Augustus explains that before the disaster, the French government evacuated its national treasures to secret storage facilities. If Jack accepts the mission, he will be flown to France. Despite his uncertainty, Jack ultimately agrees. He prepares all the necessary gear and leaves his beloved dog with Fuentes, asking him to take care of it if he never returns. Once everything is ready, Jack heads to the airfield, where he meets King Augustus once more. The king explains that Jack will depart that very night. He will be flown to a region known as San Quentin. King Augustus warns him to be cautious, as the area is a stronghold of rebels fighting against Volkov and is plagued by constant conflict. Upon arrival, Jack will meet one of the rebels, an informant working for King Augustus, who will help him locate the Mona Lisa. Once the mission is complete, the rebel network will contact the king to arrange an evacuation. That night, Jack is flown toward France, but shortly after entering French airspace, plane comes under attack by Volkov's forces. The pilot quickly informs Jack that they are approaching San Quentin and orders him to put on a parachute and prepare to jump. After Jack secures the parachute, the pilot gives the command. With no other choice, Jack leaps from the plane. Jack finally lands safely. He then begins walking toward the nearest city. Along the way, a tank suddenly appears and comes under attack by rebel forces. One of the rebels urgently tells Jack to head to the town square to meet someone. Elsewhere, Volkov, the ruthless ruler of France, receives a report from his assistant Paul about an intruder from England. Enraged by the news, Volkov orders Paul to announce a bounty. Anyone who captures the intruder will be rewarded with 1,000 rounds of ammunition. The next day, Jack finally arrives in the city of San Quentin. He wears a tattered jacket to blend in with the locals. In the city, Jack witnesses Volkov's soldiers publicly executing 2 rebels. To avoid drawing attention, he slips through narrow alleyways. However, he is stopped by several of Volkov's men. They order Jack to hand over his bag for inspection. Left with no choice, Jack fights them one by one. Despite being injured, he manages to defeat them all. From behind, one soldier attempts to shoot Jack, but suddenly, the soldier is taken down by a rebel named Drea. Drea turns out to be the informant of King Augustus that Jack has been searching for. She then leads Jack to a safer location. As the two walk away, one of Volkov's men, Sergeant Alex, watches them from a distance. Long story short, Drea brings Jack into an old church. There, they are greeted by a pastor named Samson. It's revealed that Samson is also part of the rebel movement opposing Volkov. He explains that he has obtained a map believed to contain information about the location of a secret storage facility. Samson then shows them an armored vehicle, specially modified with bulletproof plating. The vehicle is prepared for Drea and Jack to use on their journey. The 3 of them examine the map together. On the map, a city called Sully is clearly circled. It is highly likely that the secret storage facility they are searching for is located there. Samson warns Drea to be extremely cautious, as Sully is controlled by WID, a dangerous cannibal group. On the same map, Jack notices a box filled with strange numbers and letters. He suspects the symbols are an additional clue. While Drea treats Jack's wounds, Jack asks why she is willing to work as an informant for King Augustus. Drea explains that King Augustus has long been supporting the rebels in the region. Hearing her answer, Jack says that in his eyes, King Augustus is no different from Volkov. He makes it clear that he accepted this mission for one reason only: to get his yacht back. Moments later, noise erupts outside the church. Sergeant Alex arrives with his troops and surrounds the building. Drea and Jack quickly prepare to leave. Samson hands Drea a communication device and urges them to get out immediately. He plans to buy them time so they can escape. Samson steps outside to face Sergeant Alex and his men. Alex shouts, ordering all rebels inside the church to come out. Samson calmly replies that there's no one left inside. Unconvinced, Alex orders his men to search the church. Suddenly, Samson pulls out a gun and shoots Alex. In response, Alex's troops open fire, killing Samson on the spot. Inside the church, Jack struggles to start the vehicle. Meanwhile, Drea is forced to fight off soldiers closing in. As soon as the engine roars to life, Drea and Jack burst out of the church at full speed. Alex's men immediately open fire on the vehicle. Fortunately, the car is fully armored, allowing them to escape unharmed. Jack floors the accelerator, desperately evading pursuit. Jack weaves through heavy tank fire aimed straight at him. After a grueling chase, he finally manages to get away. That night, while resting, Jack asks why Drea, Samson, and the rebels were willing to die just to help him retrieve the Mona Lisa. To him, the sacrifice feels excessive. At last, Drea tells him the truth. She explains that she's not helping him just for the painting. She's doing this to stop Volkov. Drea reveals that Volkov is also searching for the secret storage facility. Inside the vault are not only priceless works of art, but also stockpiles of food, equipment, and dangerous military weapons. That's why they must find the facility before Volkov does. Before they continue their journey, Drea hands Jack a small origami boat. She tells him that besides folding paper, she also knows how to build bombs capable of destroying tanks. The two of them press on. Elsewhere, Volkov and his forces board a train headed for San Quentin. Upon arrival, Volkov immediately confronts Sergeant Alex. Furious, Volkov rages over Alex's failure to capture the intruder. Despite having superior numbers and heavy armor, he was defeated by just 2 people. Alex begs for mercy, promising to pursue the intruders heading west, but Volkov shows no mercy. Instead, he orders Paul to execute Alex. Meanwhile, Jack and Drea arrive at a military base in the city of Sully. Drea is visibly shaken. The area is controlled by the cannibal group known as WTH. She explains that before the solar flare, these cannibals were inmates in a maximum security prison. When the world collapsed, they escaped and took control of the region. Drea urges Jack to move quickly before the cannibals return. Moments later, they spot a FLIR flare fired in the distance, a clear sign their presence has been detected. Without hesitation, Jack and Drea rush into the nearest building. Jack wedges a metal bar behind the door as a warning, so they'll know if someone tries to force their way in. He and Drea then enter the storage facility. But to their surprise, the warehouse is completely empty. According to Jack, everything stored there must have already been moved to a safer location. Jack then asks where Pastor Samson got the map. Drea explains that Samson obtained it from the office of a general named Stefan Matteo. The two head up to the second floor and discover that General Matteo's office is also located in the building. They immediately begin searching the room for clues. Jack manages to open a hidden locker and finds a notebook inside. Drea reads through its contents. The notes confirm that everything stored in the warehouse had already been relocated, with the destination marked only by specific coordinates. When Drea matches the coordinates with the map, she identifies a city that corresponds to the marked location. But Jack grows suspicious. To him, it all seems far too easy. He suspects the coordinates are nothing more than a trap. Jack then remembers the strange combination of numbers and letters he saw earlier on the map. Using the notebook as a guide, he begins matching the code. Meanwhile, outside the building, the cannibal group arrives and starts forcing their way in. Under pressure, Jack quickly finishes decoding the message. After matching the numbers and letters several times, Jack finally uncovers a name, Simsarov. Drea immediately recognizes it as the name of a military fortress. She points out its location on the map. Before leaving, Jack rigs an explosive to the door handle. The two escape through a window. As the cannibals storm into the room, the bomb detonates. Jack and Drea continue their journey toward Fort Simsarov. Along the way, Drea contacts the rebel network, informing them that the secret storage facility is located at the fortress. Meanwhile, Volkov's forces finally arrive at the Suli military base. They enter the building and discover the same notebook containing the coordinates. At first, Volkov is misled, but then he notices a set of fingerprints on the map pointing directly to Fort Simsarov. From that moment on, Volkov is certain the intruders he's been hunting are heading straight for the fortress. Before long, Jack and Drea arrive at Fort Simsarov. When they attempt to enter the main warehouse, they discover the doors have no external access and are locked from the inside. With no other option, they search for another way in. Jack and Drea make their way into the fortress's control room. Although the facility has been abandoned for years, it is still receiving power from solar panels outside. That power keeps the air filtration system running, preserving whatever is stored inside the vault. This only confirms their suspicion. What they're looking for must still be inside. They examine the fortress layout displayed in the control room. Suddenly, Drea receives word that Volkov and his troops are now moving toward Fort Simsarov. From the layout, Jack spots an air ventilation shaft leading directly into the vault. However, the passage is blocked by a massive, still operational fan. Drea comes up with a plan. Destroy the solar panels outside to cut the power and shut the fan down. They move immediately. Jack heads for the ventilation shaft, while Drea drives toward the rows of solar panels outside the fortress. Jack secures a rope he finds and prepares to descend through the vent. Elsewhere, Drea reaches the solar panels. She fires a launcher at them, but her first shot misses. At the same time, inside the ventilation shaft, the rope supporting Jack begins to snap. At the very last second, Drea manages to destroy the solar panels just as the rope breaks. The power cuts out, the fan grinds to a halt, and Jack drops safely through the shaft. Drea then races back toward the fortress. However, as Jack continues through the ventilation shaft, he realizes the passage is flooded with water. With no other choice, Jack dives forward toward the vault. Holding his breath, he swims through the long ventilation tunnel, completely submerged. When he finally reaches the end of the shaft leading into the vault, Jack discovers that the vent door is locked. Using the last of his strength, he manages to force it open and pulls himself inside. His suspicion is confirmed. The vault is packed with massive stockpiles of advanced weaponry. Moments later, Jack finds the object he has been searching for all along, the Mona Lisa. But the truth is far more shocking. The Mona Lisa is not a painting. It is a nuclear bomb. Jack immediately opens the vault doors so Drea can enter. That's when the truth comes out. Drea knew all along. Under direct orders from King Augustus, she was forbidden from telling Jack the truth. According to Augustus, Jack would have refused the mission if he knew the Mona Lisa was a nuclear weapon. Drea explains that the nuclear bomb was designed for long-range destruction. Because of that, it includes an additional safety system, a connector. Without the connector, the bomb cannot be activated. Hearing this, Jack is furious. He feels betrayed. Jack refuses to hand the nuclear weapon over to King Augustus, insisting that Augustus is no different from Volkov. But Drea defends the king. She believes Augustus has helped the rebels countless times and intends to use the weapon to finally stop Volkov. Jack responds bitterly. To him, every fallen regime is simply replaced by another. Overwhelmed by anger and disappointment, Jack decides to walk away. Not long after, rebel forces arrive to help Drea transport the nuclear bomb out of the fortress and send it to England. Drea hands the bomb's connector to one of her comrades. As Jack walks alone through the streets, unease begins to creep in. He realizes Volkov's forces will arrive soon and slaughter the rebels, Drea included. At that moment, Jack notices the origami boat Drea once gave him. Suddenly, he remembers something. Without hesitation, Jack turns back. Elsewhere, Volkov and his army finally reach Fort Simsarov. They launch a brutal assault, massacring the rebels escorting the nuclear weapon. Once he is certain no one remains, Volkov orders his men to load the bomb onto a train. Shortly after, Jack returns to the now silent fortress. There, he finds Drea, wounded but alive. Jack tells her he has a plan to stop Volkov. He remembers that Drea once claimed she could build explosives powerful enough to destroy a tank. To reach the city, Volkov's train must cross a bridge. Jack asks Drea to construct a bomb capable of destroying that bridge, while he attempts to steal the bomb's connector directly from Volkov. Before leaving, Jack gathers explosive materials for Drea. He then detonates the fortress itself, destroying everything inside so it can never be used by anyone again. That night, Volkov's train moves slowly due to limited visibility. Volkov orders the engineer to increase speed. The engineer refuses, warning that it would be extremely dangerous. Without hesitation, Volkov shoots the engineer dead and forces the train to accelerate at full speed. Outside the moving train, Jack leaps and manages to climb aboard one of the cars. He immediately fights his way through Volkov's soldiers. A brutal battle erupts between Jack and Paul. After a fierce struggle, Jack finally defeats him. Moments later, Jack confronts Volkov face to face. Volkov draws his pistol and fires, but Jack manages to block the attack. When the gun runs dry, Jack grabs a knife and stabs Volkov's hand, forcing him to drop the weapon. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Drea plants the explosives beneath the bridge. She lights the fuse and runs. A massive explosion follows. The bridge collapses, sending Volkov's train plunging into the abyss, destroyed completely. Later, Jack reunites with Drea and reveals that he successfully recovered the nuclear bomb's connector. Soon after, Jack returns to England to meet King Augustus. He explains that the Mona Lisa nuclear bomb now lies at the bottom of a ravine and cannot detonate without the connector. Jack demands that the weapon remain buried forever. He then hands the connector over to Augustus. In return, Jack finally receives his fully restored sailboat. He leaves England behind and sails away with Drea, beginning a new life together. Inside the palace, King Augustus locks the nuclear connector inside a secret vault, right beside the real Mona Lisa painting. And that is where the story of Afterburn comes to an end. The film delivers a powerful message. Survival skills and human capability are far more valuable than money, because when disaster strikes, money means nothing at all. If you enjoyed this story, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our social media. See you in the next video.